Welcome back, guys, to another Reincarnation Coliseum video. Chapter 34 blesses us with the lovely Lolly Alice on the cover before transitioning over to Paula and Vivian walking through the corridors as slaves with Mikigami. Though nervous, he questions how he'll be able to deal with these experienced women. Thinking back on a conversation with Zulu after his fight against Mary, Zulu explains as his senpai of the Coliseum that he should never underestimate his slaves. In this world, when you win, it's possible to establish a hierarchical relationship. Mikigami came in as just some thin guy with a copy skill, and that changed everything. When he started, he used any means necessary to gain an advantage, like what he used against Mary at the time. Mikigami eventually managed to make the Heavenly King submit, but if it wasn't for the rules, they would have never obeyed him. Realizing the awful truth, Zulu continues on that management would have intervened if a slave killed their master to save their own reputation. If other conflict arises, such as physical assault between slave and master, management would overlook it as minor and part of their exclusive relationship. After guzzling the rest of her drink, Zulu stands up and tells Mikigami that even during sex, he has to beat the odds. Switching back to the present time, Vivian appears most excited about what's to come as the trio stop at the reception desk. Still not knowing how to deal with these new women, he pleads for Zulu's help. After grabbing the aphrodisiac, Vivian is thrilled to have it in her hands again, ranting on that this can only be acquired in the Coliseum. Paula looks disappointed at how much Vivian loves fighting for something like that. Vivian responds that it's the best reason to fight for. Mikigami realizes he has no need to rush things since the drug will take care of the rest. Even professionals like them would submit after drinking something like that. As the receptionist asks them to drink their share, Vivian declines before mentioning that taking it now will affect their ability to walk, so she'll take it later. This leaves Mikigami dumbfounded, as the receptionist respects her decision and the fact it'll still be ingested. Feeling like he's losing ground, Mikigami starts believing that Vivian is definitely different from the rest. These women can even be trusted by the receptionist, which has never happened before. As he continues to think about what he can do in this situation, nothing comes to mind that would help him get an advantage over them. That's when Vivian starts shouting about the match she lost. Paula and Vivian go from friendly to aggressive bantering about it. As Vivian mentions G being a loser too, Paula gets irritated before mentioning that G is irrelevant to the situation. Disheartened that he can't join in on their conversation, Mikigami and his new slaves finally arrive at his room. When he opens the door, he finds his harem welcoming him in new types of nightwear. With Vivian being amazed by it all, Marl is the first to grab Mikigami and ask for his opinion on it. Alice chimes in that the choices should be pleasing since she's the one who stands superior among them. Meanwhile, Mary is seen going after Marl for breaking the agreement established by them all. Suzu backs up Mary by mentioning that if Marl stays close, Mikigami will be tempted. Marl responds that she's not tempting him at all, but rather showing she's emotionally relieved that he's safe. Chris mentions feeling the same as Marl while holding on to a part of her master as well. With Mikigami's mind overloading from the lewdness, Paula and Vivian conclude that a person with a harem of obedient and tempting slaves like this could mean only one thing. Dread washes over their faces and they start to think that this kid's got experience or he's possibly a sex addict. With Mary and Suzu finally pulling a tearful Marl off of Mikigami, Feeney tells him to hurry up and make a clone to help out. Next, Suzu pushes both Vivian and Paula toward the next room to get the reward. Finally alone, the two new slaves can't help but wonder what type of person he truly is. Paula thinks on how he ignored the women who flocked around him, while Vivian thinks over how she called him innocent. Through this experience, they both will uncover Mikigami's true nature. Wondering how he should start things, Vivian smirks before taking the initiative to step forward. Thinking to herself that it doesn't matter who he is since it all leads to the same thing, she tells Mikigami that she wants to be berated from the start. In fact, going a step further than that by wanting him to pound her and berate her at the same time. The room is then filled with silence, with Paula looking disgusted by Vivian before Mikigami responds confused by her demand. Vivian explains how she wants to be treated while intimate, make her feel like trash, make her resist just a tiny bit, until finally when he's close to climaxing, he chokes her until she faints. Paula at first was taken aback by the demands, but tells Vivian that her way kills the mood. Infuriated by it, Paul explains that setting a good mood is important. Vivian retorts that no one cares about that and that it'll be disappointing if things are done right away. As the two continue to argue, Mikigami finds himself caught in the crossfire against their strong sexual desires. After a while, Vivian grabs onto Mikigami's arm and tries to persuade him to accept her way of intimacy before Paula does the same thing on the opposite end. As they tag team Mikigami with pleasure, he believes things have started and that their technique is beyond incredible. After 3 days, the two erotic pros can be seen sleeping comfortably while Mikigami wakes up feeling defeated. He recalls how both Paula and Vivian only listened to each other and overpowered him. It was thanks to the aphrodisiac that he survived, but in the end, it still counts as his loss. Depressed that he disappointed Zulu, Marl, Fine, and Chris arrive to drag him from the room to continue the fun next door. As the door closes, Vivian is surprisingly woken up to Alice in BDSM attire and Clone-kun. After calling her a brat, Alice mentions that since Vivian always liked making fun of her, it's time for her to be made fun of like the trash she is. Hitting a weak spot, Viv grins as her and Alice go at each other off panel. Paula, uninterested in their drama, watched on and described it as a good thing for Vivian. Clone-kun grabs Paula's shoulder at that moment and states it's time to continue where they left off. Being a clone, he declares that he'll win since he can be revived infinitely. The true bedroom battle is about to begin, and Paula is seen welcoming such challenge. In the next room, the real Mikigami is seen as a husk of himself, with Zulu pretending to weep for him. Some time goes by before he's fully restored, and Zulu tells Team Mikigami that she has no information on the next opponents. Fine is seen thrilled to be fighting next and looks forward to the new experiments with Mikigami. With each of his slaves ready to participate in a trial, Fine is seen fidgeting from being called upon first. Mikigami decides to make things comfortable by taking Fine in the next room. While there, the two are shown overanalyzing his copy skill before the experiment begins. When Mikigami decides on using the fireball skill, it doesn't manifest and both chalk it up as not following the usual prerequisite. When Fine smacks Mikigami, he tries to use the skill again, but nothing happens for a second time. Wondering if her smack was too weak, the chapter ends with both realizing that copying Fine's skills might no longer be possible. Okay, so that was chapter 34, from what I can understand. Very Vivian and Paula focused. Mikigami took an L for the first time in the bedroom. If anything, this tells me that he can't handle threesomes yet. Vivian was too much of a masochist and Paula's sex drive was too high for him. Like he said, if it wasn't for the aphrodisiac, he probably would have been done for way earlier, but I gotta commend him for just taking the L like a man. I think the 3-day extra with Paula and Vivian is gonna be insane. Zunta's gonna go nuts with the illustrations. I actually can't wait for that. Hopefully the editors let him do what he wants and, you know, we get way more than what we got. I think the 3-day with Chris was toned down just based on how things have been going. Because, you know, Zunta likes to show 2 sets of works, the actual stuff and the stuff that gets approved. And when he shows us the things that didn't get approved, it's like, man, this would have been nice for like the fans. And, you know, sometimes he puts it up on like his fan box and stuff. So there's that. It just kind of depends. I don't know what's gonna happen. That's why I think that chapter 33.5, I think that was just something just to put out there just for us. I don't think we would have gotten that until the October issue, this one that just released. I think that chapter right there was supposed to be for this one. I'm like very certain of it now, but I don't know. The real stuff is in the folder out there, so look forward to that. Anyway, Zulu being illustrated as a glutton had to be for like comedic purposes, because that happened during like the fight after Mary. You know what I mean? It's like right after that. So there's not too much to really think on there. I think they just wanted to put in a funny to show that she was stuffing her face after believing in Mikigami. And, you know, it just kind of went from there, because we see Zulu is still just as skinny as she is in later chapters. So there's that. The body Marl is seen dragging in the panel in this chapter is the real Mikigami. I know some folks kind of speculated that it was the clone, that they were just done and over with, but the clone that was dealing with Marl and all them basically trade places. That's basically what happened. Like that clone went into the room with Vivian and Paula while the real Mikigami got dragged out. So there's that. And it's funny because Chris is like chanting equality, and Fine is right there saying you know, drag him out, like chanting dragon. And it's funny to me because Fine usually settled on whoever, the clone or the original, and said it feels like the same thing. So I think Fine's really like playing the more affectionate, submissive role now. So there's that. So I guess that's pretty cool. That's a nice little neat development to see there. As far as Alice in her BDSM attire, I kind of felt that was coming. If we didn't get it in this chapter, it would definitely be in the extras, no doubt. There's no way those two aren't a perfect pair. I think that's gonna be like one of the best pairings that we've got in Reincarnation Coliseum. I think the next best pairing after that would be Paula and Marl, just based on stamina. So that should be interesting if that ever occurs. I hope Zunta and Harawata follow through on that, because that's going to be something. But lastly, let's talk about the cliffhanger that we got. Mikigami not being able to copy Fine's skill at this point in the game is concerning, but I wouldn't think too much of it right now until we get the next chapter. It could be an easy fix, or it could have something to do with the new opponents. The new opponents could be, you know, blocking his copy skill somehow. I'm not too sure. I'm just throwing things out there. His copy skill could be evolving where it takes way more than just a smack to copy a skill. Now you just never know. I don't know if they're going to introduce something new as far as that goes. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. And you just never know. Again, I'm not the creator or writer for this, so I can't speak on it, but I hope we get something, and I hope you all enjoyed this video, because if you did, like always, leave a comment, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and follow on socials for more, because your boy's out of here and I finally got it done. Later.